sir? How are you? Doing well. I'm wondering, is this an area where we're seeing a lot of migrants apprehended at nighttime around this? So would this be a good area to come back later tonight then, potentially? Is there an area where we can access the border wall at all around here? I know that migrants are walking around the areas that are broken up. Is there an area where we can access? I'm sorry, I should introduce myself. I'm Allie. I'm an independent journalist, and we're here just covering transparent news right here. I'm independent, so I'm by myself. So is there a spot that you would
recommend? This is federal land, so it's
okay.
So
okay.
if you guys wander in there, you guys might get yourself.
Okay, so is there an area that you know of that we can?
All of it is federal land.
Okay.
Actually, all of it is federal land.
Okay, so if we go anywhere in that way towards the wall, it's going to be federal?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we're gonna probably, are you going to be here later tonight?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to be here till 9:30.
Okay, well, we'll be back a little bit later then. What is your name, sir?
I'm Sergeant Whitman.
Very, very good to meet you. Thank you, Sergeant. My name's Allie. That is my mother, Jennifer, and we'll be back in a little bit. And do you need anything?
I'm good.
You're good? Okay.
This is what we keep.
What happened? He was out.
They left. He's partially.
Really? Do you know how big the group he was traveling with was? A small group? Okay. It's too hot. Okay, so you're going to be out here till 9:30. We're going to come back out here. There was just one gentleman that was out here who said he was blind and his group abandoned him. And so then Border Patrol takes him and he's going to be processed, right? Is he, do you know what country he's coming from? ¿De dónde eres?
He didn't tell me exactly.
Okay, Sergeant, thank you very much. I appreciate you. We'll see you later. Do you know if there's anything going on down there, Sergeant?
They station units throughout the city.
Okay.
Just be vigilant.
Okay, those are just units stationed throughout the city to stay vigilant. So we just pulled over. We're here in La Joya. We are just outside of the border wall. And we've got ATVs, we've got police everywhere. There's units up here, as they said, staying vigilant. So I was actually told by one of my fellow journalist friends who's been out here covering this that this baseball field is an area that a lot of the migrants are basically they arrive at this area. Border Patrol will come, will take them, and will process them. I just confirmed with the sergeant there that this is a place that at nighttime and during the early morning hours when it's not so hot, they will see migrants out here. So we're going to be back out here later tonight. Again, we're in La Joya, just near where the border is, the border wall is. And so you can see down here, we've got, we just asked the sergeant, he said there are units stationed around this area, staying vigilant. On our drive on here, we've seen several Border Patrol agents posted up. This is all federal land, he's telling me, so it's going to be hard for us to get access to the wall, but we did see a part of it that is down the way a little bit further, so we're going to head back down that way. Again, you can see these ATVs are going around and we're making sure. Go where?
Want to ride along?
Yes, I do. With you right now?
Yeah.
All right. Let me lock my car. Okay, we're gonna go. That's what?
That's a funeral escort. I'm sorry.
Oh, a funeral escort.
I thought you were talking about the white vehicle right there.
Okay. So are we both? Is it just me can go?
Just one person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you stay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Water with your mask?
I've got a mask and water. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna go on a ride along really quick. So this was the sergeant just asked me if I could go along. So we're going. Okay. I'm gonna leave you the key. That thing's not working, so I'm gonna leave you the key, Mom. And I got my mask. Here's that.
Perfect. All right.
Okay, I'll see you in a bit. Okay. Let me get my mask on. Ooh, it's nice and breezy over here, Sarge. All right, I like that. Okay. And we're live on my camera right now. Is that okay? Are you okay if I show that? Okay. We're all about transparency here, my friend. We're all about that. Alrighty. We're buckling in. How do I do this, sir? This?
Entry screen all the way over there. Okay. We're gonna.
How do I do that one?
You're gonna hook it like this. Grab like this.
Okay.
Get that hook there. Here. There
Okay.
we go. Click it back.
Click it. Oh, okay.
And then just the press.
This part up here. Okay, my friends, you guys we're locking and loading while we're live here. So let's do it. Okay, we're going on a ride along. yourselves, my friends.
Good afternoon. Sergeant Villrreal, Joya Police Department.
La Joya PD. We're going on a little ride along here. We're going to take me on a little tour of what we're seeing out here. Again, we're right outside this baseball field here in La Joya, and this is where a lot of the migrants are taking the further process.
Bangworth Canal. This is where we get the most groups coming in.
Okay.
There might be some, but there might be stashed inside the woods.
Okay.
It's super hot for them.
Okay. Is that why there's so many border patrol agents as they're looking through the woods?
Where you want to go? We'll go entrance 3 all the way.
Thanks,
that's going to be Chief Ramon Gonzalez. And that's
we're live streaming. We're all about the transparency. All right, guys, let's do it.
So, like I said, you might encounter some right now, but if they already crossed, they're within the woods trying to get a report scene.
So then, do you see them later on then? And that's where they end up over there?
Correct. Around
Okay.
6:30, that's when they start coming out.
Okay.
All the way to like 9.
Yeah.
After that, they'll start coming out again from 2 in the morning all the way up to 4 or 5.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's
so,
when you get the bigger family.
okay. So early morning hours or later at night, it's just too hot for them to make this trek. So we're following here. We're going in at one of the entrances to the areas that they see large groups coming through. Mostly it says families.
We'll encounter a group, then we'll put it back on.
Okay, great. It's a little hot. Okay, so we have our masks on. We're in open air, but if we encounter a group, we're going to put our masks back on. It's extremely hot out. The humidity's thick today. Okay, so this is so people are walking through these conditions in this kind of heat, huh? And how many would you say are coming through this area a day?
Well, just to give you a ballpark figure, from March to today, my department has been able to assist up to 5,000 people.
5,000 people a day since March?
From March to today.
Okay, from March till today, you've been able to assist 5,000 people. Okay. Now, do you know, are there people that are getting through? Do you guys have cameras? Do you know about any known getaways or anything like that?
Mainly when we come on here is when we get the stress calls.
Okay.
To assist the people that are pregnant or they've been injured throughout the woods and they've been bitten by something.
Okay. So most of the folks coming through this way that you guys respond to are going to be people who are needing assistance, like the gentleman earlier who was blind, who was abandoned by his group. Okay, so
patrols either early morning or later on afternoon, where officers come and check throughout the area to make sure that if there's drivers, groups that are lost, pull them out and we'll walk them all the way over here.
Okay. Do you guys get many deaths out here with how hot and the terrain and stuff?
Recently, thank God we haven't.
That's good.
There's a lot of groups that we've been kind of being dehydrated.
Okay.
Like this gentleman right here.
Okay, so recently they haven't had any deaths, but they are encountering people that are severely dehydrated. So you can see part of that wall there where it just kind of ends. So are they walking around this?
Yeah.
Is that what they're doing?
Right now we're about, I want to say, half a mile from the river.
Half a mile from the river. And is that what they're doing, is crossing over? And are there shallower parts through there as well?
There's areas that are really deep, there's areas that are shallow, but you still bring them in with rafts.
They bring them in with rafts. And are the smugglers or coyotes doing that, or who's bringing them over? Okay. With rafts, huh? Wow. one of the La Joya police sergeants. They are taking us through one of the areas that they see a lot of the migrants coming through in La Joya. You can see here part of the border wall where the construction started and ended, and they say people are coming in and they're walking around this after they cross the Rio. We're about a half a mile away from the river, and they're taking rafts. Coyotes are bringing people over in rafts, and those people are coming across here and they're going around this fence here is what the sergeant's telling me. And then what happens is they end up at the baseball field where Border Patrol will then process them. But the thing is, it's so hot out right now that between the afternoon hours, they typically aren't out here. They're going to be out here in the early morning hours, he says, between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. and then again in the later evening hours after the sun starts to set, because it's just too hot out here. So we're at one of the entrances here, coming up on it. Okay.
Once we get into the brush, you'll be intense.
Really? It gets hotter when you get in the brush?
Once we get closer to the river, you'll feel a little bit of freshness, but it's
really?
Right
Why does it get hotter in?
Like it's just the thickness of the brush.
Really? So he's saying that when we get towards the brush a little bit more, it's going to get even hotter. And he said it's just the thickness of the brush out here. And I mean, it is thick and extreme. And so they are, they look out here. They said that the migrants, when they're trying to get across, they'll stay in the woods. They'll stay in the brush area until it gets cooler. And then they'll do the attempt to cross over through that area. But right when we showed up here, we actually were talking with the sergeant. Border Patrol was here assisting a gentleman who was blind, whose group abandoned him, that was making this trek. So right now we're driving along with La Joya Police Department, and we're checking out some areas. So we're checking out some area. I will not go anywhere. They stay extra vigilant. So when they have any kind of suspicion, when they see anything, they'll stop to check under certain areas or where migrants could be seeking shelter, some reprieve here from this heat. So right now the sergeant is over there scouting out an area to see if there's potentially migrants hiding out who are coming across the Rio. We're about a half a mile away from the Rio Grande, where people are coming across. And he just told me that people actually end up, even when there are shallower areas, but he said that doesn't deter anybody when it's too deep, because the coyotes are actually bringing people over in rafts. So they're getting over here, and we know that the coyotes are given basically a fee. They are given a payment per head of these people that they bring over. We know up in Villarreal County, when we were with Sheriff Joe Frank, he was telling us that some of these people will get $15 to $25 a head. So some of these groups are 30 to 60 people, and so if they're bringing over, if they're bringing over a bunch of people, then they're getting paid to do that as well. So he just went out and checked out the area. So hopefully my phone doesn't end up wanting to die because it's so hot. I was out earlier yesterday and we were filming, and all of a sudden my phone was just like, no more. It's too hot. And
right now it's triple digits.
Yeah. You guys got a little bit of a reprieve yesterday. It was a little cooler with the cloud cover and stuff. But it's still hot. Okay, so yeah, this is the trek that they've got to make. And we were just driving out here and looking around, and it's just so hard to wrap your head around what people are willing to do and the desperation that they're in to get into this country. And so we're seeing really what they'll put themselves through and what they're willing to do. So right now we are going to, again, one of the entrances where we see groups of migrants coming through. Typically this is in La Joya, and I'm riding along with the sergeant from the La Joya Police Department, they've had people extremely dehydrated out here and struggling. So they're doing their best to keep it humane and do their job while also keeping their community safe as well. They've got a tall task ahead of them because this is a humanitarian effort and crisis, and it is a public safety issue, open cases. So they're doing the best with what they have, just like Sheriff Joe Frank said. These guys are working hard out here, and it's hot. It's hot, and I can tell you that we know Governor Abbott enacted Operation Lone Star earlier to provide a little bit of additional relief for some of these smaller communities. So we have troopers, DPS troopers, which are similar to Washington State Patrol trooper, and those DPS troopers are stationed throughout the southwestern border region, the regions that are getting the most migrants. The populace are coming through those areas, so those troopers are stationed throughout, but they're still saying they don't have enough manpower. This just isn't sustainable to be able to continue doing this. And you know, what also is interesting is we see a lot of trash and a lot of different things where the migrants have been and where they were kind of stationed and things like that. And I asked the sheriff yesterday what they do with that. He said sometimes, you know, they'll have the migrants pick it up themselves, and sometimes organizations will come out and assist and help them, but it's really hard, you know, to clean up. They don't have the manpower even, you know, to complete all these apprehensions, let alone clean up after them. So they're having a hard time. I mean, last night alone, we saw an apprehension where 8 migrants jumped out of a van and ran, and only 2 of them were apprehended. So we definitely know that they have their work cut out for them right now, and they want something to change. And so that's why we're out here showing you guys what we're seeing and what we're experiencing and what they're experiencing as well, and also showing you what the migrants are experiencing, and explaining and helping you guys understand what they're willing to do and what they're willing to put their families through, claiming they want a better life, you know, and I don't know what they're going through. I don't walk in their shoes. I didn't leave a country to go into another country and walk through miles and miles of desert terrain and 100-degree heat. I don't know what somebody is going through to want to do that. So we have talked with some migrants. We know a lot of them are heading into Vegas, into California, into Florida, and a lot of them have been on a journey, some of them for years, some of them for months. Some of them, you know, started the journey when they had a baby, and now the baby is 4 years old. So they're putting themselves through extreme conditions for a reason. And we're here, you know, trying to figure those reasons out, trying to share with you some of those facts that we're finding out. So we're in the Rio Grande sector right now. We're in the Rio Grande Valley sector. Yesterday, we were in the Del Rio sector. So yesterday, we got the statistics from Sheriff Joe Frank, who said a year ago, they had 27,000 apprehensions. Year to date, as of last month, they've seen 193,000 apprehensions. 27,000 versus 193,000 apprehensions year to date in the Del Rio sector. We're in the Rio Grande Valley sector now. They have had 440,000 apprehensions year to date. They have had that many apprehensions. So we're going through a little brush area. We gotta keep our eyes safe, keep our heads safe. This is the jungle after all, I suppose. So they have had 440,000 apprehensions in the Rio Grande Valley sector. That is where McAllen, Texas is. So that's where we're seeing a lot of the migrants come across. Again, we're seeing 440,000 migrants alone in the Rio Grande sector, and that is year to date. So we know that we're well over 1 million migrants coming through the southwestern border. That's just the southwestern border. That doesn't include California and Arizona. This is just Texas. We know that there's over 1 million, probably close to 1.5 million of migrants that have successfully crossed the border, been processed, and basically have gone out throughout the U.S. We know from the Army Corps of Engineers just a little earlier today, we're going to be working with the sheriff to confirm some of these numbers, but he tells me that in McAllen alone, where we were earlier, there were 7,000 slow down. Because again, typically it would. Typically it would slow down a little during the summer months, right? The people coming in because it's just so hot. How many like are coming through at a time? And it's like been picked up like recently, like over the last as well. So Sheriff, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself to us so that people on our lives can know who you are.
Well, I'm Sheriff Eddie Guerra. I'm the sheriff of Hidalgo County here on the southern border of Texas.
Now, Sheriff, this is where McAllen is, where we're seeing that's probably one of the areas we're seeing most on the news, if anything. Why are so many people coming through the McAllen area, and what kind of numbers are you seeing as far as migration there?
So the infrastructure on the south of the border lends itself to have the rail system and the highway system ends up in on the McAllen side, far and of course the Anseldos Bridge. So it's easier for those migrants. Mostly they're coming from the Central American countries of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. So we're and of course we're not the very southern tip. That would be Cameron County, which would be Brownsville and Matamoros. But the infrastructure lends itself more to Reynosa, which is right across from McAllen.
Okay, and so then we see Sheriff Joe Frank shared with me some statistics that you guys got as far as what the latest numbers were from last month. So can you explain to me the Rio Grande sector? That's McAllen's part of that, right? But it's not broken up by counties as far as the apprehension numbers, right? When it comes from Border Patrol.
So on the southern border, you have different sectors of Border Patrol, and if you take where you were in Valverde County, that's you have the Rio Grande Valley sector, the Laredo sector, and then the Valverde sector.
The Del Rio one?
Sorry, the Del Rio sector.
Yes.
Those three sectors, if you take the numbers and combine them, you'll see that over 67% of the crossings are happening in those three sectors alone. And of course, the highest numbers being here in the Rio Grande Valley sector of Border Patrol.
So what I saw was about 440,000 apprehensions year to date. Over
400. Well, as of last week, it was 444,000.
What would you normally see in a year?
It varies. This is I've been the sheriff here for 7 years, and this is the third time that we are experiencing an influx of immigrants coming across.
What other time periods have you seen that?
Well, it happened back in 2014, back in 2019, and of course we're experiencing it. Probably started around February, and this is the highest I've ever seen it. We're a little different compared to the Valverde County or Laredo, is that we're lucky that we have an NGO, which I don't know if you've been.
We're meeting with them tomorrow.
Catholic Charity.
Yes.
And they've been used to this, so they know.
If you need to get that, you're welcome to. I can stop recording if you need to.
No, it's okay. No,
Okay.
Hold on, just let me tell them that.
No problem.
Hey, Victor, I'll call you right back. So.
Yeah, because the NGOs over there are a lot smaller.
They've been involved in this, since 2014, maybe even before that.
So did they establish because of that first kind of surge you saw? Okay.
So they've been established, and they know the process. Once these family units and these unaccompanied children, when they come across, now we have to provide them, humanitarian aid. We're not just going to let them wander on the streets and become, someone else's problem. So we're lucky that they were able to handle about 2,000 a day. And about 3 weeks ago, those numbers increased to over 3,000 a day, and it overwhelmed their system.
Oh wow!
And so that became a real concern for
So what's the fail safe with that? What do you do when the NGO that's assisting and helping in this humanitarian aid way?
So
what's the option?
So they had to, come back to our cities and here, and they ask for help. And so that's when you'll see what the cities set up these tents. They're again, Catholic Charities is helping, and they're providing the food. The cities are providing the shelters to help process and move these immigrants up north. Normally when these immigrants come across, they're usually gone within 24, 48 hours. So they
like leaving your county.
Right.
So what percentage would you say would stay here?
None.
0% stay in Hidalgo County.
But however, now they're testing for COVID, so they're not allowing those individuals that are positive for COVID to travel.
Okay. How do you keep them from traveling?
Well, Catholic Charities has this, security guard there, and we give them. We're in their packet. There's a control order that is telling them that they cannot.
But how many of them are actually abiding by that, or is there somebody making sure that they are?
No.
Okay.
It's just. I mean, it's overwhelming. I mean, we don't have the staff to do that. But they know that if they don't, there could be criminal penalties, which will hinder their asylum.
Okay.
So if they're
that's what they would face if they ended up breaking the order that you guys have given them, that Catholic Charities has laid out for them in their packets and things like that.
Right.
So when we were talking with the Army Corps of Engineers earlier today, he said that 7,000 COVID positive migrants were released into McAllen. Do you know, is there truth about that? Is that factual? Are people?
I don't know the numbers, but
Okay.
You're probably seeing about 1,600 there in the Ansalduas, and I don't know how many are in the hotels that are being rented by Catholic Charities.
Do you know which hotels they are? Do they disclose that? Does the community know which hotels they're at? Are those people? I mean, I guess answer that first.
So. It had been a problem. Catholic Charities have been doing this since COVID first hit, and it hadn't been a problem until a family decided they didn't want the food that they were being provided with, and they wanted to give the child wanted a hamburger, so they walked into a local hamburger fast food establishment, and that's when the patrons of the establishment saw that they were coughing and sneezing, and so they called local law enforcement, and they interviewed them. What are you doing? And then they were honest with them that we're staying at this hotel. We're COVID positive.
Okay.
So that prompted a call to the police chief. That prompted a call to the mayor. The mayor called the county judge. I was notified, and it was a lack of communication between the NGO and they didn't realize that that they were housing these the immigrants, and most of them were abiding. They were abiding. They were staying in their rooms. I personally asked the police officer that did the report, "Did you see food and water?" And said, "Sheriff, they had plenty of food, plenty of water. They had absolutely no reason to leave their room, but mother wanted to please the child and go get him a hamburger." And the security guard that was there, there was no security guard there because they were having problems staffing, and so now they're making sure that there is security guards there watching them, and making sure they don't leave the room.
And what authority does a security guard have?
Really, they don't have no authority. But
so then they would have to alert a local police department.
That this particular family left.
Okay.
And that way,
Yeah.
we would, or they would in turn notify Catholic Charities that this family didn't abide by the rules.
Okay. Now, yesterday we saw some migrants that were at one of the NGOs, the mission up there. A lot of them were wearing ankle monitors. Is that something that you know about, or is that BP specifically?
I believe that's a new program that they're doing now, and
How new? Like a month or two, or?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I'll look into that though.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
And now, so what I understand is
with ankle monitors. And,
okay. Are they? Somebody told me that they're ineffective. Are they able to take them off themselves somehow? Are they? Do you know anything about that? If they're doing that? Okay.
I'm not seeing those.
Okay. Now, as far as how many people are coming in, we know that some of them are COVID positive. You were talking about the camps and the tents and things like that. How many areas are set up to process and handle people in your county? And what does that do to your manpower, or does that impact you?
So right now what we're seeing is about over less than, well, 70% of my federal partners are tied up processing these immigrants.
Okay. What does that mean for you?
What that means for me is that as the sheriff of this county, I'm responsible for the safety, the security of the citizens that work, that live, and that travel in this county. And like I said, Hidalgo County is a border county. I depend upon my biggest partner, which is my Border Patrol partners, to secure the border. Well, they're not able to do that because they've been called off the line to process and sometimes just babysit these immigrants. Mm-hmm. And so now I have holes in the border, and now that gives the criminal organization more. They're not able to smuggle their drugs or their criminal aliens or aliens that want to come in that cannot come into this country. And so what we're seeing is increased numbers in our stash houses. We're seeing really not in my county, but in my neighboring counties, you're seeing increased drug trafficking. Mm-hmm. And of course, I believe you talked to my counterpart in the county north of me, and he's seeing more deaths because they're crossing, they're circumventing the federal checkpoint there. Mm-hmm.
They just found another one yesterday.
So mm-hmm. he in the past 2 days he's gotten 5.
Wow.
So.
That's extreme for them. So have you experienced anything? I know each border sheriff has very different problems. That's what I've learned. You guys are dealing with very different issues. Right. So are you dealing with deaths, things like that from the migrants in your area?
We have deaths out in the my northern part of my county.
How many do you know?
I think I'm up to 21.
What would a normal year look like?
Probably would be at probably about 15.
Okay.
However, now we're so busy that if they're on the other in the municipalities, they're taking their share, and our federal government, which owns most of the land on the river, they're doing the investigations on the ones that they find there. So I don't have the complete numbers. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I just have mine.
Okay.
Now we are seeing a lot of rescues.
River rescues, or okay.
Up on the northern part of our county, where aliens are either abandoned or lost.
Mm-hmm.
We just saw that.
Mm-hmm. We did just see that somebody left their blind friend out in the
so they're down
jungle.
911, and we're having to go out there and rescue them.
And what does that do for your staff? I know you guys are already kind of stretched thin. So what does that mean?
We're lucky that the sheriff's office here. I have 21 different municipalities with law enforcement. I have 5 constables' offices. We have the resources that we can. It doesn't affect our operations. Mm-hmm. Because at any given time, I have deputies that are working our Operation Stone Garden, mm-hmm. and they're the ones that answer these calls.
Okay.
So
they're specifically kind of allocated in those respective ways, so that okay.
Specific, they're not taking the regular calls for
okay.
shows.
So that means that your guys can continue to serve your communities and municipalities. Okay.
We have so I have the resources to do that, but my neighboring counties, they don't. Mm. So one rescue, one death might take up 50% of the force that they have out working at that time. And so when another rancher or they get another call for service, it just backs up. You talk to Joe Frank, sometimes it takes two, maybe 3 hours for their deputies to respond to a rancher's call.
Yeah.
We're lucky that my landowners, when they call for service from the sheriff's office, we're there. If my Operation Stone Garden deputies can't respond, we'll send a regular unit.
Okay, so from what I can gather, you feel like you do have the resources to keep your area safe. You feel like you're equipped right now where it stands. Now, if the numbers continue to climb, which we're seeing month over month, they're record setting, do you believe that you'll be able to sustain it if it continues?
Now, this obviously, with the numbers increasing the last 3 weeks, it's unsustainable for my federal partners. There's no way. There's no way that they can continue with the amount of numbers that they're seeing. Now, I haven't got the numbers for this week, but I'm hoping that with the Secretary's visit, that he was here last week and talking to some of the border sheriffs and his plan with the government of Mexico, we're hoping that we'll see a decline in some of these numbers.
Typically, from what I've read and in my research, you guys would have a drop off in the summer months because it is just so excruciatingly hot. But you didn't see that.
It feels like 110 degrees out there.
It's extreme. I was just riding along out along the Rio, and it was rough. I mean, so is that shocking to you that the numbers have continued to climb even despite what we're seeing out? I mean, the elements.
It's the draw that they have today with the I guess seeing the American dream, and unfortunately leaving a country for due to economics does not qualify for asylum. And I would venture about 80% of these people are leaving these countries for economic reasons, and so their asylum claim will be denied.
Okay. And that will be when they go to their court date and they get about 12 to 36 months usually wherever their final destination is generally, right? So then if that is their reasoning, then they will be denied and they will be sent back, or what happens if they're just saying we want a better life for...
That's up to her.
Okay. What have you seen happen? Do they stay?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have seen flights from McAllen. I have seen flights from McAllen going back to the interior of Mexico with people that they're returning.
Okay.
People that have been caught 2 or 3 times, and they're just sending them back. So
Okay.
hopefully, I've told the Secretary you need to have all the news media there and showing those on the every day on the news where you see these flights going back.
So they understand that that's an option as well, right? Because they're not seeing that that's happening, and they're talking. We know that they're watching the news. We know that the migrants are talking. We know that they have social media. We even have learned that the cartels and the coyotes are using social media.
Oh, yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit more?
I mean, it's a form of communication. It's a form of communications that's used by everybody, including all of us here in the U.S. and everybody in Mexico. And if you look at these migrants, they all have phones. They all have phones.
And that means that they can see what's going on. They can see where the spots are that you can cross. They can see that people are being let in, right? So you're kind of saying, let's show the negative side as well, so that maybe it is a deterrent. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Now, as far as what a solution is, what do you see as something that needs to be done or can be done?
Well, obviously, our representatives in Washington. I've been the sheriff for 7 years. 7 years. In 2014, I testified in Congress, and my testimony has not changed. And the problem still exists today as it was back then. They need to come together. They need to do their job, and they need to come up with solutions. They need immigration reform. Currently we have a broken immigration system. We need to make it easier for these people that have true asylum claims, and then make it and stop these the ones that don't here at the border and send them back.
Mm-hmm. Now, what kind of communication or I guess negotiation and working together, what do we need to do? Other sheriffs have talked about how the administration needs to work with Mexico. What do we need to do? Other sheriffs have talked about how the administration needs to work with Mexico. Do you feel that way as well? Do you feel that we have to work together with our neighboring country to our south?
Well, that's the plan right now. Is what the secretary says is that he went down and met with the government of Mexico, and they have agreed to have their border patrol get beefed up on their southern border, and they've agreed to put up inland checkpoints. And
so right now they don't have that at all. Is it just
if they do, they need to
reinforce it
to be a lot more stricter, because obviously they're not doing a very good job.
So that was last week. He said that they made the agreement.
And he's also going down into those countries that most of these immigrants are coming from, and start working with them. And if we need to set up facilities over there where they can have their asylum claims heard over there, it's a lot makes more sense to have it done over there.
Yeah. So do you feel supported right now by the administration and by other? I know that you said that the border sheriffs, you guys all work together, and you have support from your federal partners that are here. Do you feel supported by the administration?
Well, I think the administration is starting to listen. We've all been down here, banging the pots together, and I think they're finally starting to listen. I had been calling for a meeting with the secretary since March, and he came down and he met with us, and he made a commitment that he was going to continue the line of communications. We've got a new chief of Border Patrol, and we've had a good visit with him. I know him; he's a personal friend, and so he understands. He's been through this more than I have, so he understands the problem. So I think he gets solutions. He can bring it across real easy over there. So
okay,
I'm hopeful.
Have many administration officials been here to visit?
They all come.
Okay.
And it got to the point to where, I mean, not only immigration officials, but senators, representatives, and I'm talking from both sides of the aisle. And I don't think I'm going to be invited to some of these border tours, because I've been speaking my mind and telling them that they need to go back and do their job. They come over here, they do the photo ops, and they go back to the communities and says, look, I'm here working on border security, but yet there's no results. And so we're tired of it.
And like you said, you've been having that same rhetoric since 2014.
Correct.
Okay, and so now you finally feel like they're kind of hearing it. We're seeing things. We haven't seen anything change yet because this was just last week. But you're hopeful that the numbers are going to start to decrease. What else? What are you guys seeing in your communities? I know that you said that the ranchers and things, you guys have enough kind of staffing to help, but what are you hearing from people living in Hidalgo County? Are they worried? Are they concerned? Are there issues amongst
They've always, I also live on a ranch. I'm a landowner.
Okay.
I grew up here in South Texas. Been here all my life. My family, we crossed the Rio Grande in 1758. Our ranch dates back to the Spanish land grants.
Wow.
So, as growing up as a child, we have always seen immigrants crossing our lands. It's just been a way of life for us. So, all the landowners down here that have been here also for many years, they were kind of callous to this because we've seen it all the time.
Does it look the same as it did?
No, I think it's back. I think if I recall, in 2006 is when we started having these criminal organizations. They started using tactics where they were running through our fences and causing a lot of criminal mischief. So it's been 13, 14 years now that we've seen that. So nothing has changed for us. But you go further inland and further up north on the border. Those landowners, they've never seen that before. They've never had their fences torn down. They've never had their water troughs broken, and then they show up. Their cattle have nothing to drink because the migrants broke the watering facility, and so.
So you guys know to check on those things and to look at that, but you're saying the inland landowners, this is new.
Even in Valverde or Kinney County, and those counties up, where they're seeing, I mean, Valverde County's they've never had 1,000 immigrants cross a day into that community. They've never had any of those numbers, and so to them, this is something new, and so their voices and their screams are a lot louder than my landowners.
But it's because you're callous to it, like you said. It's like a desensitization. It's not because it's not happening.
It's happening. It's been happening for a long time, and we've been asking for change a lot longer than they have.
Well, maybe now that you're all beating the pots and pans, maybe like you said. So what's your biggest concern here, Sheriff?
My biggest concern, again, what causes my stress is that I've got a border that's open, and just 2 days ago, we hit a stash house, and my guys caught two known gang members that obviously are not staying here, but going to cause problems in other areas of the country.
Can you tell me what gang? Were they
18th?
Okay.
And I don't like to mention them because I don't give those gangs credit.
Right.
So
you apprehended two gang members in a stash house. How many people were in that stash house?
At that particular one, there was 13.
Okay.
So we turned them over to Border Patrol, and we arrested the principal that was running the stash house.
So you are able to arrest that person without having them go through Border Patrol first?
We turn them over to Border Patrol.
Okay, and then you can arrest them and charge them accordingly.
My deputies had made a traffic stop on human smuggling, and they noticed that the individuals were smuggling, and so after interviewing the occupant and the driver, led to going to that stash house, and we rescued. And as a matter of fact, before that, we had 4 that called 911 asking to be rescued because they were being held against their will. These organizations are extorting and asking for more money for their smuggling.
And what I understand too is that a lot of times they'll threaten their families that are back in their countries of origin.
Right.
Okay, and that's also why when they get debriefed, they're not giving up those people that are holding them against their will sometimes is because of what they have. Okay. Now, we encountered last night while we were driving back into McAllen, about an hour and a half out, there was an apprehension and pursuit, and it was actually a gentleman from the U.S. that picked up 8 migrants, and he was apprehended and facing those charges now. But how many would you say are U.S. citizens that are involved in this smuggling and human trafficking and drug trafficking?
We have quite a bit.
Really?
Yeah. So
I think that's a point of ignorance for all of us, is that we assume that they're all coming. They're not. These are U.S. people too, helping.
Criminal organization, known as the cartels, will hire our gangs here to do their smuggling, and of course they use social media to recruit. And you can see them where they're holding lots of money and saying, "Hey, this is what I made smuggling, driving a load of illegals to Brooks County."
And so they know it, and then other people jump on board and want to do the easy money too.
Contact us and
wow.
Not knowing that we've caught anywhere from high school kids to college kids just trying to make some quick money, and they land themselves in jail and looking at a criminal record.
What's the penalty generally for, like, how much time do they spend generally?
It depends on the severity and the number of agents that they have.
Say it's like this case last night. It was 8. And I don't know if he had a criminal record. I know it's case by case. I know that matters as well. But say this was an initial infraction. You had 8 migrants. What would it?
They'll contact the U.S. attorney and see if the U.S. attorney is willing to prosecute the U.S. citizen. Usually, you have to have 7 or more. But our district attorney says, "Bring me the case, and if it's a good case, and he'll prosecute, because there's a state statute for smuggling of humans, and he'll prosecute them."
Okay, and that's here, but you're saying that, so if someone had less than 7 aliens that they were bringing across, the penalty would be different, or maybe not even, they wouldn't be prosecuted?
Well, they would go from federal to state charges.
Okay. Thank you for that information. It's very insightful. I know you have a groundbreaking to get to. Is there anything else that you can share with us about what's going on in your communities, about any concerns, or even your optimism about things? Obviously, you have some staffing to help you, so whatever you can share is appreciated.
Well, again, you asked a good question. What it's different, and again, I want to stress that what keeps me up at night and causes a lot of concern and stress for me is that my biggest partner, which is my federal partners, are tied up and they're not able to do their job to help me keep those people that want to come into the United States and do harm, the criminal aliens. And so you've got throughout the country, you've got people in here that are illegal. They committed a crime, they served their time, and then they were deported. Those individuals want to come back. They want to come back, and we have a great my federal partners, my border patrol agents. I mean, they're some of the best law enforcement guys you can and women that do a fantastic job in doing that, catching these people. But today they're not able to do that. Their number one mission, because they're having to process, and there's just not enough of them to keep up with the numbers. And so now the border's porous, and so I've got more drugs and more criminal aliens coming back into this country.
Do you know, when we were talking with Joe Frank, he said that there were 50,000 known getaways in Villarreal County. Do you know how many getaways have been in yours?
Yeah.
You guys haven't went and counted all the camera shots?
No,
okay.
I mean, I'm sure my border patrol partners have that, but they go to Mexico, and remember those are different attempts. There might be one person and attempted to come in, so multiple times.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Until they finally are successful.
Mm-hmm. And Joe Frank was saying too that it depends on their infraction. Sometimes, because we're so strapped right now, is it true that sometimes they can be turned out 3 times without even really facing major charges? And he said some of them even 6.
There's not enough ICE agents. There's not enough special agents to do the investigation because they're just so busy.
Mm-hmm. Is the nation should the nation be worried or concerned? Because I know you just said 0% of the migrants are staying here.
Yeah, when I talked to my inland sheriffs, I said, look, they're not staying in my community. They're not staying in my county. They're just traversing my county, and they're going to your county, and they're staying in your county. Mm-hmm. And the ones that don't want to get caught will go underground, and if they're a victim of crime, they're not going to report it. So you've got crime happening in those counties that are not being reported. They're victims, and then you've got criminal enterprises that prey upon these people, and you've got criminal aliens helping those criminal enterprises, whether it be child sex rings, human trafficking, prostitution.
What would you say is the biggest piece? Is it human trafficking? Is it drug smuggling? Is it what would you say is they're all
all those crimes are
I mean, I excuse me. I mean, like how many? Like
I don't know which because I'm not dealing with them.
Okay.
Those sheriffs up there.
Okay.
Are dealing with them.
Are the Border Patrol, real quick, and we know that we're taking your time, and real quick, are the Border Patrol, are they the ones that test for COVID? Mm-hmm. Do they test the migrants? Okay.
No, the NGOs or Catholic Charities is the ones that are
Okay.
Okay.
So they get processed with Border Patrol, and then they go to Catholic Charities and they test them there?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Anything else that you have to share or want the people to know about your lovely county, sir?
I think we've covered it all.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to... So yeah, we know the conditions are really rough out here. Not sure what that gentleman is doing, but we can see several migrants waiting to be transported by Border Patrol, and then Border Patrol will process them. So yeah, you see a lot of family units. The family units are the ones that are going to come across and kind of self-surrender, kind of, allow Border Patrol to take them into custody because they do want to be processed. Again, this is all part of their journey, right? So they are starting, some of them taking a month and a half, some of them, we've talked to some people who were in Uruguay and they were working there for 4 years trying to save money to get into the US. And so they're gonna go through this process here. You can see them waiting in line. These are young males here. I'm not sure if they're with groups. Okay, thanks for bearing with me. We got our conversation set with the sergeant. He's on his way to pick us up. We're gonna go on another ride along with him on the ATVs, and we're gonna go and actually go back into this area because there's a lot of migrants that'll be coming across there that are going to want to be apprehended and want to be processed by Border Patrol. I'm gonna grab my mask because I'm gonna go over and see if I can speak with any of them. I don't speak great Spanish, but I might be able to find out where some of them are from. But I know that COVID cases are up, so I'm gonna go ahead and put on a mask for Justin, just in case. So yeah, so I can tell you here, let me turn this back around. Probably got 75, 100 people here waiting for Border Patrol to be processed, and then they'll be transported. And right now they have some papers, so I'm gonna try to figure out what is on those papers, if they'll show me, and see what I can find out. So let me ask, let me see, hold on one second. Hi there, ¿de dónde eres?
Nicaragua.
Nicaragua, okay. Do you have that papers, papeles? Do they have números on esta papel para ti, or do you have these? ¿Qué está? What is this? Okay. Okay. No tienes. You're waiting for that? Okay. Okay, you do have. Can I see? Mira. I don't need to show it on TV. I just want to see. Okay, so this is documentation. Okay, Nicaragua. Okay. Okay, gracias. Gracias, señor. Okay, so what those papers are, they're showing where they're from. It is, if they have identification, the license is on there. They have a copy of their identification. That couple is from Nicaragua, is what they're telling me. Again, I don't speak great Spanish, and it doesn't sound like a lot of, from when we were talking with a lot of folks, a lot of them don't speak Spanish either. So, yeah, so we're learning a lot right now. They're getting, the paperwork that they have is their documentation. So some of them they all have a paperwork, and they have their license on there or whatever identification they have. And then they have the location that they're going to. And so these folks are from Nicaragua. They're going to be processed by Border Patrol, and they'll be fingerprinted in those things. Again, they do have their identifications copied on a piece of paper that I just saw here. They were showing me the documents that they have. And so right now they're waiting to be processed. And again, these people all want to be apprehended so that they can continue on their journey into the US. And what will happen is they'll have a final destination. Wherever they're going to go, wherever that final destination is, they'll be given a court date. And then they are set to respond to that court date, usually within 12 to 36 months is what the sheriffs are telling me. And in that time frame, they're in the US working, establishing lives and things like that before they even see a judge. So they definitely they know about this process. They know where to come in. This information is coming from local police, local sheriff's departments, and they know where to cross. They know that they know the logistics of getting over here, and they know that because they're watching the news. They know that because they are using social media. They have cell phones. They're people just like everybody else, so they know exactly what's going on, and they know how to get into the U.S. And so right now, again, these people are waiting right now to be transported. They'll be processed by Border Patrol, and then depending on where we're right now, we're in La Joya, so we're in Hidalgo County, so they're likely going to be transported to the Respite, which is a Catholic Charities NGO. They can handle about 2,000 people, and apparently they're seeing numbers in the 3,000, so they're pretty inundated as well. Hopefully, sorry guys, it's really windy. Hopefully you can still hear me. I'm trying to get my mic in a spot that's a little bit better. So, yeah, we're sitting here watching several migrants waiting to be processed. Most of them, from what we learned earlier from the sergeant with La Joya Police, is that they'll cross the Rio and then they'll come over onto the U.S. side, but they'll end up kind of staying in the wooded areas because it's just too hot. So they'll stay there during the daytime, and then they'll come out in these evening hours, or between the 2 and 5 a.m. hours is what the sergeant was telling me. So right now we're waiting for him. He's going to pick us up. We're going to go on another ride along throughout that sector, throughout that region that they tend to see a lot of apprehensions and where they assist a lot of people. The sergeant also telling me that they have helped about 5,000 people year to date out of that area. Today we saw one gentleman who was abandoned by his group that he was with because he was blind, and so the sergeant was assisting him and then worked with Border Patrol to get him onto his way. So, this is a multifaceted issue for a lot of people, for this county, for this police department. They were saying they only have 15 people on their department. So right now you see it's all Border Patrol here, and Border Patrol, they all work in conjunction with all the local law enforcement, but they don't share details. A lot of the details that they even cover, they don't talk about with the local law enforcement. So they're pretty tight-lipped. It is a government agency. It isn't, they aren't going to share a lot of details with us. So we're trying to get bits and pieces that we can, gather, but what we can tell you is once they're processed, they'll end up with a manila envelope. It's those, big envelopes that we see all the time that, in business and in work and whatever, but they will end up with one of those once they are processed. And we have seen those papers as well. And what's on that paper is going to be the exact address and the name and information of whoever they're going to meet up with at their final destination. So they have to have a family member or somebody that they're meeting up with. So one family that we talked to yesterday, they were coming originally from Cuba, but they were working in Uruguay, and they were going to meet up with family in Vegas that had gotten to Vegas 4 months ago. So they had been working for 4 years to get here. They already had jobs lined up. They were working in the hotel industry, and so she was going to meet up with her family and do, work in the hospitality industry as well. Her husband was going to work in a remodeling business. So, they're coming over here. A lot of them are just saying that it's, they want a better life for themselves. And we just heard from the sheriff here in Hidalgo County that said, if that is your claim for asylum, when they see their judge, when they go to their court hearing, they could be denied because that isn't grounds for asylum. But we know that their court dates are 12 to 36 months away. So, and do all of them come back? We know that there were some that only 5% of migrants returned for their court date. I believe that was in Brooks County. So, we also know that these people don't stay here. So their court dates are in the states where they're going to. And a lot of them also we've seen once they're at the respite that they're going to, they have ankle monitors on as a tracking device. And the sheriff said it's a fairly new program, a new tool that they're trying to use to be able to know where these people are going and to be able to make sure that they're going to the destination that they say they're going to. But, it's pretty tough because they end up, being bused to the depots or to the airports, and then they go on their way. And then it's their responsibility to return for their court date, to do those things. Now, the COVID positive ones, those tests aren't being done by Border Patrol. We just learned from the sheriff here in Hidalgo County, we learned that it is a respite or the NGO that's going to conduct those tests. So Catholic Charities is the one that has to conduct those COVID tests. Well, we know that 7,000 COVID positive tests were found, and then those people were out in McAllen. That's what the Army Corps of Engineers was telling us. And those people were out in McAllen, and there's nothing that they can do to make them stay in the hotel rooms that the NGO put them in or anything. They have paperwork that's basically like a code of honor that you're not going to leave. And if you break that, they could end up affecting their asylum claims. But that's, there was literally a couple and their little child that the sheriff was telling us about, that the kid wanted a hamburger. I mean, the respite gives them food, water, all of those things. They were saying there's no reason for them to need to leave their rooms, but they did because the kid wanted a hamburger and the mom wanted to give the kid a hamburger. So they ended up at Whataburger. They were coughing. People were concerned and they asked what was going on, and the migrants said that they were COVID positive. And so they called, the people there called the police, and the police came and responded. But this is a really shocking part, is that they can't make them quarantine if they're COVID positive. They can't do anything. And they had a security guard, but then over the last couple of weeks, apparently they haven't had one. And so these people were walking off on their own volition pretty much. And I said, well, what does the security guard, what authority does he have? And they said zero to do anything except for to call police. So my sergeant friend just arrived again. All right, you ready for this? Okay, we're gonna go back on another ride. I'm gonna give my mother my key here. All right. Okay. He's not gonna know what's going on over there. He just showed up. Okay. So you guys all know this guy. He's our old friend by now. Hopping in this.
They're gonna be south of you? Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna set you guys right here for 1 second. So chill out. Just relax. I gotta make sure I'm buckled in. You guys are fine.
We're gonna intercept the pretty large group that's coming on out of the river right now.
Okay, so we gotta hurry. Okay, let me get my little thing buckled here. Did you already go on your other ride along, sir?
No, you're my first.
Ooh, we are the first, you guys. We're gonna go and intercept a group coming across, he says. So hopefully you guys can hear me. I got a mic on this time, sir.
Awesome.
Let's do it. Okay. Okay, so again, we are in La Joya. We are in the Rio Grande Valley sector, the busiest sector for apprehensions and crossings. We're going to, along the Rio, there's a group coming across, and we're gonna go, what he said is intercept them. So that's where we're heading. You guys are along for the ride. Groups of 50 to 100. The sergeant here is saying that they're being blitzed basically from all areas. They were coming in from one direction, and now they're seeing it from all areas here along the Rio. And I asked him, well, isn't it pretty deep out here? Because this isn't like up in Del Rio where the water is shallow enough for them to just walk across. This is deep water that they can't get across. So a lot of times the coyotes will put them on rafts and bring them across. Okay, so this is one of the... So were you just advising them where they needed to go? Okay, so he was just letting them know that that's where the processing is happening. So you can see a lot of family units that are coming through here. Now, do you know, is anybody posing as family units that you found that aren't actually families that are trying to get across? Like men maybe linking up with a family, or people, you know, apprehending kids and bringing them along to pretend to be a family?
Could be possible.
Okay. How would you find that out, or how would you know that? That Border Patrol would have to? Okay. So he said there's no way to know that. That is a Border Patrol thing that they would have to, you know, go through and determine as well. So,
you don't want to go check down there? I'm going to escort them that way, I'm going to go all the way down to the river where the post is at, and then I'll come back out. And then from here, we'll go over there. All right, just give me a sec. We'll do it. We're going to go all the way south for the river, the road meets the river. We're going to make sure that no one's for the east side, because sometimes they'll walk from the east side of the wall directly.
Okay, and then they're too far, right? That's dangerous.
And then after this, we have to head back towards the west side, because right now they're just going to start pouring from every side of the river.
Okay. He said that we're going to go down here towards the river. We're going to look and make sure that no one's going basically away from the processing center, because if that's the case, they're going to be, you know, in the wrong direction. They're walking in this heat. They're walking in these elements. So we kind of have to help guide them in some capacity. So right now we're doing that. He said they're going to start pouring out from all directions here along the river. So right now we are on one of the main pathways that he said that they take. Generally, we've already encountered a couple of family units. Let me move this microphone again so I can get up, make sure that you guys can hear. Oh, we're good? Okay. Here we go. Okay, so this is this a little crossing area that you would generally see?
It's because since they pour from every side, you need to pay attention towards the footprints.
Okay. So do you go and follow?
Yeah. You have to track.
Okay.
There you have to track.
Now, do you go and help? Do you go find them to help them, or are you finding them because they're getting away? You're helping them.
Helping them get out.
Okay. they're helping them get out. You guys, this is. I mean, they call this basically a jungle out here, and so they're helping them get out. It's pretty easy to get turned around. If you look up, I mean, there's nothing that even indicates where you are. You might be able to follow a power line or something, but it's pretty hard to determine where you are out here once you're here. So once they cross the river, and again, they're doing it pretty quickly. They're trying to come over. You know, they're not trying to stay over on the Mexico side because there's cartel over there. They will rob them. They have, you know, cash in their pockets to get to wherever they need to go. And so they are trying to get, you know, across that river as quickly as they can because they don't want to get killed and they don't want to get robbed. And a lot of these are family units. Now, I did just ask him, is it possible that, you know, men are linking up with women and children and posing as family members? Is it possible that, you know, people are kind of apprehending these children that are unaccompanied and pretending they're family members? So right now what we're doing is he wants to look at the footprints and see in what direction they're going because we need to track them. So those ones are going in that direction.
And that's what happens most of the time. So there's so many trails. We'll take different paths, but this is the one that has the most tracks.
Okay. So this is the one that going to have the most foot traffic for the most part. So I did ask him if that's possible that people will kind of pose as family units, and he said it's possible, but that's not anything that they can determine. That has to go through Border Patrol. Border Patrol will make that determination and will deal with it accordingly, right? So we know that single adult males are going to go through kind of a different process in a family unit. A family unit is going to be prioritized. Now, if these single adult males don't have any criminal history and this is their first offense, depending on where they are, they might be sent back. If they're from Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, or El Salvador, they might just be sent back if it's their first offense. And the sheriff of Hidalgo County here, where McAllen, Texas is located, we're in La Joya, they confirmed too that some of these people can be to 6 times and they want to keep coming back. And so, you know, they have to stay vigilant. So we've got a lot of tracks coming from this way, huh? So let's show you, see all those footprints there? So that's what they try to do is they try to check and see. They said they have to track them as they have to help them out of this area. It's impossible to navigate this by yourself. And so we know a lot of these folks also link up as a group here. We're apprehending these children. So we're approaching a group here with the sergeant. I'm gonna put my mask on here.
Buenas tardes. ¿Estamos listos? Los voy a llevar al centro donde está inmigración, ¿ok? Para que les den primeros auxilios y para que les den agua, ¿ok? ¿Están listos para moverse? ¿Mande? ¿Traen sed? Ok. So lo que vamos a hacer es... Yo también. So lo que vamos a hacer, me van a seguir hacia donde está inmigración. Ahí les van a dar agua y les van a dar primeros auxilios, ¿ok? Y ahí de ahí ya ustedes pueden hablar con ellos para saber cuál va a ser su destino final, ¿ok? So, si tienen máscaras, por favor les pido que se las pongan. Y voy a darle la vuelta al carrito y seguimos. ¿Hay más gente hacia allá? ¿Son nada más ustedes hasta ahorita? Ok. ¿Cómo vienes? ¿Vienes lastimada? ¿Qué te pasó?
She hurt her foot. She's having a hard time.
Ok. Como ya viene lastimada de esa pierna, va a ser la única persona que puedo subir al carro. ¿Sí entienden, verdad? Ok.
I think we're going to take her, right?
Yeah, we're gonna take
okay, so she hurt her foot. She's visibly struggling here. She's got a little girl. So we're going to take them and escort them because it's a pretty tough walk. Hola. Hola, niña.
Sí, siéntate aquí abajo y agarra a la niña, ¿ok?
Hola. ¿Cómo está? Caliente, sí.
¿Estamos listos?
¿De dónde es? ¿Qué? ¿De dónde eres? El Salvador. So they're El Salvadorians. Mostly family units here, as you can see.
Estamos
And we're going to take her back with this little girl. So she has a little girl with her. And she just said that they're from Nicaragua. Or, excuse me, El Salvador. The other family we talked to was Nicaraguan. So her and her little girl are going to be, we're going to escort them back because she hurt her foot and is having a hard time walking. So these folks here are, the sergeant has directed them to head back to the border processing area. They're kind of going to follow us a little bit here because they can get water and support there and be processed there. So now we are heading back. We just asked them to put their masks on. It's hot, he said, but you've got to put your mask on. So we've got the group kind of traveling behind us. We're moving slow so that they can kind of keep up and don't get lost. We're traveling back with a couple of groups. Okay, so these groups are from El Salvador, is what she was telling me.
She's from El Salvador,
okay.
But they might be mixed.
Okay, because they linked up across the river and then come across.
Correct.
Now, with somebody from El Salvador, if they're a family unit, are they still processed and potentially brought in? If it's just a single male, they might be sent back, but family units are processed?
That is something that we don't have knowledge of.
That's a border patrol. Okay, so they still, as far as like who is processed and those kinds of things, that's a border patrol thing, he said. And so right now we are in the Rio Grande Valley. We're in La Joya. We are along the Rio Grande where groups of migrants cross daily, groups of 50 to 100 all day long. That's what we're told. Now, because it is these summer months, usually they would see a huge drop-off, but right now they said the numbers just keep going up. And so right now they're getting in, people 50 to 100, but they are taking kind of shelter in these wooded areas during the day to get a little bit of a reprieve from the heat. It's extremely hot. So yeah, right now we are escorting a group of her. She was visibly limping. She had a walking stick. I asked her where she's from. They're from El Salvador. Clearly a family unit, a mother and daughter. We have many, people behind us as well that we're escorting back to make sure that they make it safely.
I'm gonna take her over there because she's hurt from her leg, man. You just want to guide them?
So we're gonna continue on our path and we're gonna take her back, and they're gonna escort the rest of the group that was with them back so that we can carry on this way. So again, we'll be out here, looking at tracks. That's what they do. They have to, what they say, track them. And we literally came across this group that was just sitting there waiting to be found. This group of people, they were waiting. They weren't walking, they were stopped, and we came across them. And what they do is they look at those. Yes, thank you. I'm being attacked by bugs. So he's giving me bug spray because now it's gonna get worse, he said. Oh boy. All right, so we're getting the bug spray on us here. Thank you, sir. Thank you. He's my new best friend, I swear. Okay. Do you want me to put this here for now? Thank you. Okay, so I'm bug sprayed up. Do you see me wiping it, getting all the flies?
As it gets darker, they're gonna get us from all sides.
Really?
Yeah, it's gonna get really bad.
Oh, fun. Okay, we're in for it, guys. They're gonna get bug attacked and all the things, but we're out here experiencing this together, seeing what this is really like. So, a lot of people were like, where are the caravans of people? Right here. They're in the Rio Grande Valley sector, crossing the Rio in groups of 50 to 100. They're getting brought over on rafts by coyotes. They're, making their way across, and they're doing it, the sergeant's telling me they do it between 2 and 5 a.m. because that's when it's cooler. And so they will do that trek across the river very early morning hours, and then they'll seek shelter in these wooded areas. And by shelter, I mean just a little bit of shade from these elements. It's extremely hot. And so these people will end up coming over here and they'll end up on these pathways throughout this like jungled area, and it's pretty hard to tell where you are. And so what they do is they come out here, the La Joya Police, and then Border Patrol is out processing people. La Joya Police, they will work with people and they will track them. So they look for footprints in this dirt here, and then they find out, and that's how we found this group. There's all these different side little alleyways and like little pathways. So they have to follow the footsteps because they want to help these people out. They want these people to get processed, and these people want to be processed. They don't want to leave people out in this area to die. And they will, because it is extreme out here, and they don't have water. They don't have food. They don't have shelter. So these people are putting themselves through extreme conditions so that, what was that?
Only a rock or a branch.
Okay. No, nothing dropped. We're good. And so yeah, they have a long journey, a lot of them, and a dangerous one. And I don't know their story specifically of why they left El Salvador, but this woman and her young daughter.
Can I ask them?
Sure. Why did they leave El Salvador?
Amiga, ¿cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo? Her name's Yesenia.
Yesenia.
¿Cuántos
Okay.
años tienes, Yesenia? She's 25 years old.
25. How old's her daughter?
¿Cuántos años tiene tu hija? ¿Tres?
3-year-old daughter. And then why did they leave?
¿Por qué se vinieron de El Salvador para acá? ¿Por el papá? ¿Dónde vive su papá? ¿O él vive en El Salvador? Okay, so they came over here because of their dad. He's in El Salvador. ¿Qué es lo que pasó con el papá? Okay, so basically what happened is that they got divorced and he wanted to kill her.
Oh, okay. So she was in El Salvador with the dad of this little girl, and apparently the dad threatened to kill her, wanted to kill her. They got divorced, and so she's now coming over here to protect her and her daughter.
¿Quién te espera acá en Estados Unidos? ¿Tus papás? Her parents are over here in the United States. ¿Dónde viven
Her
ellos?
parents are in the United States.
¿Dónde?
Mi papá vive en Virginia, mi mamá vive en Nashville.
Okay, so her dad lives in Virginia and her mom lives in Nashville.
Okay, her dad lives
¿Con
in
quién vas a ir a
Virginia,
vivir?
her mom lives in Nashville.
¿Con tu mamá en
She's going to
Nashville?
Nashville with her mom. And
¿Cuántos
again,
días llevan de camino? How many days have they been traveling?
yeah, how many days have she been traveling?
¿Cuánto?
16 días.
About 16 days.
About 16 days she's been traveling. 25-year-old woman. Jacena is her name. She hurt her foot, so we're transporting her and her daughter.
¿Cómo te lastimaste el pie?
Nos siguieron los policías de México y me caí en un barranco y ahí me lo
¿Qué es lo que te hicieron los policías?
Nos siguieron.
Oh, okay. So the Mexican police was chasing them, and as they were coming down, ¿se cayeron en el barranco del río?
Mexican police were chasing them.
En otro barranco que estaba antes del río.
Okay, so they were being chased by Mexican police,
They're being chased by Mexican
and
police.
they fell into a ditch as they were trying to get away.
And they
before
fell
had to
into a
run.
ditch as they were trying to get away, and that's how she hurt her foot. That's how she hurt her foot. When we came across her, she was limping. She had a walking stick. That little girl with her is 3 years old. She tells us that she's from El Salvador. Her and the dad of this little girl here got divorced, and he wanted to kill her. So she left. 16 days she's been traveling to get into the U.S. with her young daughter, and she was being chased by Mexican police, and they fell into a ditch, and that's how she hurt her foot as they were trying to cross the river. And so now we are helping them get to the Border Patrol so that they can be processed. Again, because she's not just coming over here for a better life, to work. She probably has a decent asylum claim. I don't want to fully make that assumption, but if she got a divorce and the husband's trying to kill her, it's a little bit different than she wants to come here to work. So we'll see. The judge has to make that determination as to what she can do. She's 3 years old. She's very sweet little girl. And that's what we're seeing out there with the group. There's little kids. She's 3 years old, and it is a humane and a humanitarian crisis. crisis, and they're trying to do as much as they can to make sure that these people are safe and in a humane way. And this is a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in. Again, if you guys are just now joining us, we are in the Rio Grande Valley sector. We are in the busiest sector for apprehensions in the southwestern border here in Texas. We've seen over 440,000 apprehensions year to date in this sector, which is a couple of different counties, but it does include Hidalgo County, and it does include McAllen, which we've known has had, we can put your bag here.
Hold on, fine.
Okay. We know that has had a steady influx of people as well. And so, when they're coming through here into this area, they're coming across the Rio. It's about a mile that way. And they're coming across the Rio, and then they want to be apprehended. But this area of the Rio is extremely, extremely deep and swift, and it is full-on Rio Grande. And so I asked him how they get across, and he said, well, the coyotes will put them in rafts, and they come across in a raft. So these people we just encountered on the trails back here that basically they know that the police are going to be out there. They know that Border Patrol is going to be out there. They know they're going to be found for the most part, and they know that they're going to be processed, and that's what they want. Because, like, for example, this woman, she's from El Salvador. She has a mother and a father in the States. Her dad is in Virginia, and her mother is in Nashville. And so she's meeting up with her mother in Nashville. And the reason she tells us she's leaving El Salvador is because she divorced this little girl's dad, and the dad was threatening to kill her.
There's another large group coming from the west side.
Oh, wow. Okay,
So we're going to have to move to the west side now, because
Okay.
most likely it's going to be major groups lost over there right now.
Okay, so this is a group now coming from the west side, so we're going to drop her off, and we're going to head to the west side here as well. So we are making our way around here, and so we are back to the baseball fields where these people are they're doing the bare minimum, the bare minimum here to get them into the processing facilities. So right now they have paperwork with their identification, and they basically just have the clothes on their back and whatever they traveled with. Again, this woman, Jacinta here, that we're dropping off. Adios, niña. Adios. Adios. So she's 25 and her daughter's 3, and she hurt her foot because Mexican police were chasing her, and they ended up falling in a ditch and she hurt her foot. So we were escorting her back. The little girl is her daughter, and Jacinta tells us that she was divorced the dad of this little girl, and the dad was threatening to kill her, and that's why they left. So they left because she was in fear of her life, and her daughter. So now they're here with Border Patrol. They'll take care of them. Sarge and I are going to go back out. We're going to go to the west side. There's another large group coming in from that direction. So we're going to head over on that side as well. Let me flip this back around here. So there's Jacinta. She's visibly limping, obviously. Again, she's been on her trek for 16 days. Over 2 weeks. She's been traveling. And so it looks like, I don't know if she knows this group, but she stopped and is talking with them. So again, she's 25 years old, from El Salvador, with a 3-year-old daughter. Left because the dad of the little girl was threatening to kill the 25-year-old woman. So she's meeting up with her family. She has family in the States. She has a mother in Nashville that she's going to be with. Her dad lives in Virginia. So that's what we just learned from that little stop. And now we're going to head to the west side. West side?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to head on the west side. There was another large group coming through, so we're going. Here we go.
0201. There's another large group coming in from the west side.
So again, I think it's important. Like every sheriff, every law enforcement official, everybody that I've talked to, these are human beings. This is a humanitarian crisis at this point. This is really, really tricky and tough for them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. You want to to get some water?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna get some agua. I'm getting really good at my Espanol. Mom, can you grab me a water? Then I don't have to unbuckle. That's easier. Thank you. Thank you, sir. What was she asking? What was my mom asking?
That would be a question for water, but we really don't know where this is. Sorry about that.
Okay, so we don't know where the buses are taking them yet. We know that there
really
are...
important. I
Okay.
know if these groups ask you for water, don't pull out your water jug because we're going to get swarmed and we might get hurt.
Oh, okay. Okay. Very important. Is that...
that's
do you
fine.
think that they can't see it there?
Yeah, that's
Okay, so...
If you want to, we can put it inside my backpack. That's where I have my...
Okay, I'm gonna... He says that it's dangerous to have water with us because these groups don't have any access to water really. So if they ask for water and we have water and we pull it out, he said that we could get swarmed and we could get hurt. So he's putting my water away in the bag so that we can access it out in these conditions, but we can't have it out because these people, I mean, that woman that we just talked with, she's been on a trek for over 2 weeks. I mean, I don't know if she had access to water. I guess we could have asked her that, but I don't know. And he, you know, I asked him, do they have water out there? And he said, you know, they might have a water bottle that they fill up in the Rio, which is dirty. So, you know, clean, fresh water is a hot commodity out here.
We were actually giving them out. We were bringing packs and packs of water until it got to the point that it was so dangerous for us and for the officers.
Because when you would bring water out, they would swarm you.
They swarmed the units.
Really?
It came to a point that it's now a risk factor for my officers
Wow.
and us as well. So
Wow.
we have to stop and just allow Border Patrol to give them the help once they're here.
Okay, so they say that basically they can't do anything as far as helping with water or anything like that because when they were doing that in the past, they were bringing out flats of water and they were getting swarmed and basically attacked over water. So they're not doing that anymore. So they don't give them anything. They basically help them back to Border Patrol and allow Border Patrol to take care of them, provide any food, water, sustenance, whatever they need. The department doesn't do that. He said it became a risk for them and his guys, and he's not going to do that. He's not willing to risk his team. So we're approaching that large group. It almost looks like two groups.
Right, that's what we're going to start seeing right now.
Okay.
We're going to go towards where we exited, towards where we exit earlier.
Okay. Because they already know where they're going, right? You're just going to tell them to keep walking.
Yeah. There's agents on the other side. I don't remember if you saw that little...
Yeah, with the mesh thing that that gentleman was under? Yeah.
So they directed this way.
Okay, so they're getting directed already to come this way. They've already encountered a Border Patrol agent. So he's basically telling them, keep going, and then it's up there on your left. He said, water's up there, keep walking, up there on your left. So they're gonna keep going, that's kind of what he's gonna do, and then we're gonna go out into the trails and do what we were doing earlier and be an escort if anybody, you know, needs one. Okay, so if anybody has any questions, go ahead and ask them. The sergeant is marvelous and answering basically any question I have. I don't speak the greatest Spanish, but he is being really helpful.
En menos de un kilómetro ya llegan donde está inmigración. Ahí tienen agua y ahí les van a dar acciones, ¿ok? Suerte.
And they all, I mean, they all do they seem to be very grateful when they get to this point. Is it because they have like hope that they're almost there? So once they encounter, you know, the sergeant here, once they get on these paved roads and once they have a, you know, a trajectory of where they're going, every person that we've encountered, I mean, for lack of a better term here, they light up. They're like, thank you. Because some people have been out here for days. That 25-year-old woman and her 3-year-old daughter were out on their journey for 16 days. And in the summer months, it's extremely hot and extremely dangerous out here for people to be out here, which is why they can't bring water out here anymore because they were getting attacked and by all the migrants that wanted water because they haven't had water. It's so hot. Okay, let me flip this back around. So we are continuing to drive. If you guys are just now joining us, we are on a ride along with the La Joya Police Department Sergeant, who is basically, we go in through these trails along the Rio Grande where migrants are crossing over, and they kind of have to help guide them through these pathways because it's kind of a maze in there. It's really hard to navigate that area, and it's miles and miles in these conditions. And so they go in there and they look for tracks, they look for footprints, and then they will help escort them out. In that case, that woman had an injury, so we helped her out. Like he said, they've been able to assist 5,000 people year to date. And so those are kind of things, operations that they're doing that they didn't have to do, this time last year. They didn't even have to be out here patrolling, really, this time last year. So we're certainly seeing that those numbers here today. I mean, people were asking, where are the quote-unquote caravans of people? Well, these people are coming in, the sergeant tells me, by groups of 50 to 100. And so, yeah, we're certainly seeing that. So my phone battery is getting a little bit low, so I'm going to jump off when we encounter another group, which is inevitable. I'm going to jump back on, but while we're driving here, I'm going to pop off for a little bit. So stick around, more to come. All right, my friends, we just got back from our second ride along with the La Joya Police Department Sergeant. We are out here in the Rio Grande Valley sector. This is the busiest sector here for migrant crossings and apprehensions. This covers a couple of different counties. This is along the Rio Grande. So right now we're outside of a baseball field. This is one of the areas that a lot of these migrants are being processed at each and every day. When I was talking to the sergeant with the La Joya Police Department, he was telling me that there are so many people that are processed here. There's too many to count. He said by the hundreds. We were seeing groups come out after crossing the Rio Grande today, coming out in groups of 20, 30, different age groups. We saw one woman who was traveling with a young daughter, a 3-year-old, 25-year-old. She was coming from El Salvador because she actually divorced the little girl's dad, and the dad was threatening to kill her. So 25-year-old woman came across, was traveling from Mexico for about 16 days with a little 3-year-old girl, and was here to be processed. We actually helped escort her because she hurt her foot. So right now we are still out in La Joya. Again, this is in the Rio Grande Valley in that sector here. So right now we can see a couple of groups of migrants. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to flip my camera around for you guys so you can see. I hope you can hear me. I got a microphone on so you guys can hear a little bit better. But we are waiting as people are being processed. They will get some forms and then they will end up on a bus. We see that bus right there, and then they will be taken for processing, and they will get in the system and things like that. And then what will happen is they will likely go to a respite depending on where they are, and that respite will then assist them to get either to a bus depot or get tickets to wherever they need to go to their next destination. So right now we see a group. Let's see how many people we've got here. So this is kind of the tail end of things here tonight. Things are winding down. The sergeant tells me that it kind of will start picking up again around 2 a.m. is when they'll start kind of crossing the river again and coming through this wooded area here. There's actually 2 people walking right here. I don't know if they've even been talked to by Border Patrol yet. So we're kind of watching this unfold right here. When they come over here, they get water. When we were with the sergeant earlier, we couldn't even bring out our water bottles because he said that these people out here are so dehydrated, they're so desperate for water that they will actually end up kind of swarming the ATVs and they've had border patrol they've had police officers actually basically, overrun, with migrants that want water. It's really hot out here. It was in the triple digits today. So a lot of these folks obviously putting themselves through extreme conditions because a lot of them say they want to come here for work. So some of them say they want, a better life. Again, the woman that I talked to earlier today was escaping potential domestic violence. Her ex-husband was threatening to kill her. And so she was trying to come here for a different life for her and her daughter, her 3-year-old daughter. She has family here already. Her dad lives in Virginia and her mom lives in Nashville. So she was going to meet up with her mom in Nashville. So once they get processed, they'll actually get an envelope, one of those big manila envelopes. And inside that will be their identification. I have seen the paperwork. They actually have their IDs are scanned, whatever identification they've come across with, if they have any, that is on that form. They also have whatever relative they are specifically going to meet up with, that will be on that form as well. Again, this 25-year-old woman that we helped earlier, she was meeting up with her mom in Nashville, who was already here in the States. And so I've seen that paperwork, and it does say the specific name and the specific address that these people are going to. Now, another thing that they're doing right now, and it's a fairly new program because a lot of these Border Patrol agents and a lot of the sheriffs don't even know that it's happening yet. So when I talked to Border Patrol today, they think it's an ICE program. So I'm going to try to dig into that a little bit more tomorrow. But they're doing the ankle bracelets, an ankle monitoring tracking system. So with that ankle bracelet, so what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to have that on to be a tracking device so that whenever they get to where they're going, they then will contact whatever official they're told that they need to contact, and they will then get official instructions on what they need to do with that ankle monitoring device. So another thing that we found out that was really interesting is that Border Patrol aren't the ones doing the COVID testing in the places that are doing COVID testing. Number one, we know they aren't vaccinating anybody out here. That is not something they're doing. They are not testing them either. The respites are testing them. So the respite that I'm talking about right now is the NGO, which is a non-government organization called Catholic Charities, and they are then basically given the swabs or whatever. I'm going to find out that. We're talking to Catholic Charities tomorrow, so we'll find out where they get the COVID test from, but then they conduct the COVID tests once they're processed by Border Patrol. Now, we're going to drive by the hotel that the respite opened up or is housing migrants at. It's called the Texas Inn. It's in this area, and we're going to go over there, and we know that the Catholic Charities was overrun. They could normally hold about 2,000 people, and they were looking at numbers in 3,000. So they started putting them in these hotels. And so what's really interesting is there was no security. It was basically on a merit, like a scout's honor, that they were going to stay in the hotel and stay quarantined. I'm talking about COVID positive test cases here with these migrants. So these people were out in these hotels, and just this one family walked right out. The kid, I guess, wanted a Whataburger, even though they were supplied food and water from the respite. And so they went into to Whataburger, and they were coughing and sneezing, and the patrons in there asked what was going on, and they admitted, we are COVID positive. So they called police. The police had no idea that these COVID positive cases were ending up in their community. So we're going to talk with the Catholic Charities tomorrow about that situation. We're going to talk about their funding. The sergeant tells me that they are government funded, which is interesting to me because I'm going to try to find out how they can be a non-government organization funded by the government. Going to try to figure that one out, and why they don't have to communicate what's going on with the migrants once they have them in their custody. So I got to kind of figure some details out tomorrow when we talk with Catholic Charities. So I'm going to flip the camera around again here as we are watching a couple of groups here being kind of checked over with Border Patrol. They'll be put on this bus and to be processed in those things. So the sergeant also told me that these people all know exactly where they're supposed to go. So they cross the Rio, which is on that side, about a mile that way. They come over, and the Rio, I should tell you as well, on that side, it is very deep and very swift, and it's not something that anybody could really could really handle. And so what they're doing is the coyotes are putting them in rafts, and they're getting paid per head that they're bringing over. So I actually saw video of this happening. The sergeant's going to send that to me, and I'll be sharing that as well. So they're getting in rafts, and they're just basically dumping them off in these rafts in the water. The coyotes are by hand rowing these rafts to this side, and then the coyotes will stay in the water because we've learned that they don't have a case to prosecute them if they stay in the water. And they know that. And the reason that they don't have a case is because they're not on dry land, right? They're not on U.S. soil. So the prosecutors don't feel that they have a strong case, and they want them on the U.S. side. And so these coyotes know that they can stay in the water. And so a lot of these folks are coming over, and we also learned that these people aren't making any moves without the cartel being aware. I've also learned here tonight that what they'll do over on the Rio side is they'll what they call shutting down the river. They'll close down a big stretch of the river in between La Joya and another city, and they'll close that down while they run drugs through, because the drugs will be more undetected than the rafts of people. So they'll close down the Rio, run drugs across, and then reopen it. And that's why we see kind of sporadic pushes of these groups. That's what the sergeant of La Joya Police Department is telling me. So we have learned a lot of information. Right now, again, we are in La Joya. We are outside an area where after migrants cross the Rio, they come over here. They know where they're supposed to go. Basically, they cross the Rio between the hours of 2 and 5 a.m. is what the sergeant tells me. And then they basically take shelter in the brush, out in the kind of like wooded area. It's what they call their like kind of jungle out there along the Rio. It's full of cane. It's full of, just brush, and there's wild animals. There's 800-pound boars out there. It's insane out there. And so they will go through that, and they will basically seek shelter in underbrush. And by shelter, we're in the triple digits. So they're just trying to find a little reprieve from that heat. They're just trying to find a little shade. So we saw all the areas where the brush was laid down, where people had been walking through. And we saw many groups, and a lot of them were traveling with children. And I said, is there any possibility that some of these single men or even women would kind of gather with another family group to pose as a family unit when they're not? Because we know family units are processed quicker, they're prioritized. So they said that's a possibility, but that's not something that they would ever know as a police department. That would be through Border Patrol. So he said that there are possibilities where people, will kind of apprehend an unaccompanied minor and kind of pretend that they're a family unit, and then Border Patrol has to determine that they are not, part of that unit. So again, we are sitting out here in La Joya, outside of an area where we are seeing Border Patrol talk with several migrants. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40 are out here right now. In this group. If you guys watched my videos from a little bit earlier that we were posting, we just encountered several groups that were walking out of the wooded areas. And what they do is they actually drive around in ATVs, and they work really hard as a police department, and they work in conjunction with Border Patrol as well, and DPS, which is the Department of Public Safety here, which is basically like Texas's Washington State Patrol. So they all work really closely in conjunction, and they'll be on these ATVs driving around through all of these trail areas. And one of the reasons why they're doing that is because they don't want people to die out there. They want these migrants to get out here. They want just as the migrants want to be processed, the police department needs to get them out so that they don't die in that field area. And I'm going to tell you, when we approach these groups, they weren't even walking. They were waiting for the police to come and escort them, come tell them which direction to go. And they know they're talking to people. They have their own, these folks are just like us. They just aren't speaking English. They have phones. They have the news. They're talking to each other. They all know exactly what's going on. They know how it is to get into the country right now. They know how to cross. They know where to cross. They know who to talk to. But again, they're not really able to do much without clearing it through the cartel, because the cartel is running the Mexican side of the border. And the other thing is when they're over there on the Mexican side of the border, they have some cash with them, most likely. They have, their families with them, things like that. And when you're on that side of the border, the cartel will rob them, potentially kill them. So they don't want to be over there. They want to get on this side as quickly as possible, and they want to be apprehended because they want to be processed. Some of them have been on these journeys for years, some of them months, and they know the process to get into the U.S. right now. From a lot of what I have been watching over the last few months, there was some conversation that they didn't know. Every single sheriff and every single police officer I've talked to says that's not true. They all know exactly what to do and exactly how to get in and what that process looks like and what the ramifications are. So we can also tell you that a lot of these, like if a single male from Honduras, for example, from one of those countries that doesn't qualify for asylum, if this is their first infraction, they might be turned back to the country, but they can do that 3 to 6 times. They'll leave, come right back in. That's what the sheriff's telling me. That's what Border Patrol is telling me. They know exactly the process, so they will do it again. Again, some of these people are looking for a better life. Some of these people are fleeing oppression. Some of these people are fleeing domestic violence. But I can tell you one story that the sergeant told me today, and I'll try to find their story that they shared as well. But it was about a kidnapping that had happened where 2 women and 2 female children were basically fooled by officials who they thought were officials, that they were going to help them on the Mexican side, and they ended up turning on them and saying, okay, now that we've helped you a little bit, it's $5,000 a head for us to continue to bring you across the border. And so instead, they took them and held them against their will for more than a day. And one of them was able to, I believe, alert somebody, and officials were called in, and officials were able to get those women out and those kids out before anything happened to them. So there are some really extreme circumstances too, where women and children, this is such a multifaceted situation here, and there are so many layers to this. And we've been talking about it being a humanitarian crisis, and it's turning into a public safety issue, because we know that 7,000 positive COVID cases were sent out in McAllen, and those people were walking around, and again, they're not being tested in some areas. We know up in Del Rio they canceled the contract for COVID testing. And the sheriff tells me it was for unknown reasons. So, a lot of people are expressing frustration to me that they're not being required to be vaccinated or COVID tested, while, a lot of Americans are. And so there's a lot of frustration on a lot of sides. But I think it's really important to understand that, this is a human issue. This is a really big, again, there are so many pieces to this. This isn't an easy solution, but I will tell you that every official that I've talked to, the solution that they see right now is that our administration and Mexico's administration, they both need to close the borders. Mexico needs to agree that they're going to process on their side, and the U.S. needs to close the border completely until they get a control of this situation. Every official I've talked to says they're overrun. They're inundated. They don't have the manpower. Their guys are struggling. The La Joya Police Department, they only have 15 guys. We were out here on ATVs, and the sergeant I was with, he's working from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. They're exhausted. I asked him what he needed. He said, we just need help. We just need help. And, there's some frustration there because they're not getting it. And he said, we need funding. And I said, well, do you even have people that want to work in the department? Because we know up in Del Rio, it was really hard for them to find people to work. And he said, I got 10 guys that have submitted applications. I need help. I need funding. I need help. He's been denied several grants. He's now working on calling on a congressman to see if there's anything that they can do. So, Same with Border Patrol. They said they can't sustain this. And when we talked with the sheriff of Hidalgo County today, he was telling us, his biggest concern is that with the Border Patrol agents, they're highly trained. He believes that they're doing a good job. And he says his biggest concern is that they're so busy doing this, processing, because Border Patrol is one processing the migrants. So Border Patrol is so busy processing migrants that they aren't able to do, this is from the sheriff, they aren't able to do their job of patrolling the border. So the border is what he calls porous. He called his border open to me today. So what we can, he's stressed out about that. He said it keeps him up at night, and it's something that, is an issue for them. And so again, when I was talking to the sergeant with La Joya Police Department, I mean, they're just exhausted. They're exhausted. He said that this started, kind of picking up a little bit in December. In March, they really started seeing it. And he said then it just hasn't stopped. And, confirming that usually they see it drop off in the summer months because it's just extreme conditions that are almost impossible to endure. So he said, normally it would drop off. It's not. Over the last week, he says it's gotten worse. So, there's a lot of work to be done. They really have their work cut out for them. And we know that a lot of these migrants that are crossing in, they're dying. We know that 74 bodies have been found up in Brooks County, which is just to the north of us here, because people are being dropped off ahead of a checkpoint, and then they're walking for miles and they're finding bodies out in the middle of rural county. So, I mean, that's not humane either, right? So, I mean, the solution that they see is what I just told you. So we're going to be out here for a little while longer while they continue to do their job. But tomorrow morning we might come back out here. The sergeant invited us to come back out and said we can have more conversations and potentially even talk to the chief here. He said this is one of the worst areas because there's no deterrent, and they know how to get in. So yeah, when I chatted with some of the people, the people tell me that they've been working for months to get here. They want to meet up with their families. Again, this woman I talked to today, she was trying to get away from her ex-husband who was threatening to kill her. She has family in Nashville and Virginia, and she's going to be with her mom in Nashville. So we're learning a lot. We are digging in. We are trying to get as much information as possible for you. I'm going to be, again, at Catholic Charities tomorrow. We'll be talking about some of those things that we were discussing earlier. So thank you guys for watching. I am grateful for you. I am exhausted and probably going to go get some food and try to learn a little bit more information, but I do want to show you this. There's really, really, really little kids. Really little, like babies. Babies. And they're traveling really far distance, It's really tough. When we talked with one family that had an 18-month-old, they said they're from Haiti, and they were just saying how extremely difficult it is to make that travel with a young child. So these migrants crossed the Rio, and now they're waiting to be processed by Border Patrol, and then they'll hit on this bus, and this bus will take them to their next destination, which is unknown at this time. Some of them might go to a respite, which is Catholic Charities. Some might end up at a bus depot to get to their next destination. And if they aren't at Catholic Charities to that respite, I am not sure if they are tested for COVID or not. Catholic Charities is the one that will test them for COVID. Border Patrol will not, we've learned. So, yeah, we see a lot of younger people here, for sure. But again, they're talking to each other. They have social media. They have the news, contrary to other things that have been reported. They know exactly how to get across and what they need to do, and but again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's safe at all. So we'll be watching this again tomorrow. We will be at Catholic Charities, so hopefully you can join us then. I appreciate you guys. Take care. Stay good. Be healthy. See you tomorrow.